Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. She ruled over the largest empire the world had ever known, yet behind the grandeur of the British crown was a woman whose life was shaped by isolation, intense love, personal tragedy, and a complex relationship with power. Queen Victoria wasn't just a monarch, she was the embodiment of an era marked by massive change. The Industrial Revolution surged forward, Britain's empire spread across continents, and the monarchy itself was transformed. Under her watch, audiences glimpse a rapidly changing world, smoky Victorian London, distant colonies under British rule, and the ever-recognizable image of Victoria, draped in black. But who was the real Queen Victoria, born in 1819 as Alexandrina Victoria? The future queen entered the world as a relatively minor royal, but circumstances soon propelled her into a position of immense responsibility. Her father, Edward, Duke of Kent, died when she was just 8 months old, leaving her in the care of her mother, the Duchess of Kent. Her early years were shaped by an intensely controlled environment known as the Kensington system, a strict set of protocols devised by her mother and her ambitious advisor, Sir John Conroy. The system was designed to keep Victoria dependent, isolated, and malleable. She was not allowed to walk downstairs without someone holding her hand, was denied the company of other children her age, and her daily activities were dictated down to the minute. Even her education, though thorough, was heavily monitored. This kind of seclusion instilled in her both a fierce sense of independence and a deep mistrust of those who tried to manipulate her, especially Conroy, whom she would later banish from her inner circle. When King William IV died in 1837, Victoria ascended the throne at just 18 years old. She had never slept alone in a room before that moment, and yet she now found herself the sovereign of the most powerful empire in the world. Many doubted her ability to rule. Not only was she young, but she was also a woman in an era when female leadership was met with skepticism. The political landscape was turbulent, with factions in parliament vying for control, and the monarchy itself was still recovering from the scandals and excesses of previous reigns. Victoria's lack of experience made her vulnerable, but she found stability in Lord Melbourne, the Whig Prime Minister who quickly became her closest advisor. Their relationship was both political and deeply personal. He guided her through early statecraft, helped her navigate court protocol, and became a father figure she sorely lacked. However, her reign got off to a rocky start. One of the most damaging controversies was the Flora Hastings affair. Lady Flora, a lady-in-waiting, was wrongly suspected of being pregnant out of wedlock, and Victoria, believing the rumors, was seen as having treated her harshly. When it was revealed that Lady Flora was in fact suffering from a terminal illness, public opinion turned against the young queen. This early misstep taught Victoria a valuable lesson about the power of public sentiment and the dangers of court gossip. Gradually, she learned to manage her image, embracing the virtues that resonated with Britain's rapidly expanding middle class: morality, modesty, and respectability. She consciously crafted an image of a dutiful monarch, one who valued family, decency, and tradition. This was a significant departure from the often indulgent and scandal-ridden behavior of previous royals. Her marriage to Prince Albert in 1840 further cemented this transformation. Together, they became the embodiment of bourgeois values, presenting the monarchy not just as a symbol of power, but as a moral compass for the nation. The royal household became a model of domestic harmony, and this image deeply resonated with the Victorian public. Over time, the cautious and inexperienced girl of 1837 evolved into a sovereign who commanded respect, projected stability, and fundamentally reshaped the role of monarchy in a rapidly changing world. In 1840, Queen Victoria married her first cousin, Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha, in what would become one of the most consequential and emotionally resonant royal unions in British history. Unlike many royal marriages of the time, which were arranged for diplomatic or strategic purposes, Victoria's choice was personal. She had met Albert during a visit in 1836 and was immediately drawn to his intelligence, refinement, and strong sense of duty. As queen, it was technically her role to propose, and she did so with genuine affection. Their wedding marked the beginning of a powerful partnership that would influence not just the private life of the monarch, but also the nature of British royalty itself. Albert quickly emerged as more than just a consort. Although he initially held no official constitutional role, he became Victoria's most trusted advisor, often reviewing government documents, writing speeches, and helping her navigate the complexities of politics. He was deeply interested in science, technology, education, and social reform, fields in which he encouraged Victoria to take a more modern and visible role. Under his influence, the monarchy began to shed its image of detachment and excess, evolving instead into a symbol of morality, industriousness, and progress. The couple promoted public works, supported charities, and embraced the arts and sciences. The Great Exhibition of 1851, which Albert organized, symbolized this forward-looking spirit, celebrating innovation and Britain's global stature. Their domestic life also became a public model. Victoria and Albert had 9 children over the course of 17 years, and their devotion to family life was widely idealized by the British public. The royal household was presented as a virtuous, middle-class-style family, reinforcing the values of piety, fidelity, and domestic stability. Over time, these values became strongly associated with Victorian identity itself. Their children were married into royal families across the continent, weaving a web of dynastic connections that earned Victoria the nickname, the Grandmother of Europe. It was both a symbol of her familial influence and a reflection of her role at the center of Europe's monarchic network. However, this golden age of personal and political partnership ended abruptly in 1861 when Prince Albert died of what was likely typhoid fever, though some modern historians speculate it may have been cancer. Victoria was utterly shattered. Albert had been her anchor, emotionally, intellectually, and politically, and his loss plunged her into a grief so profound that it would alter the course of her reign. She wore black for the rest of her life, refused to make public appearances, and retreated to residences like Balmoral Castle and Osborne House. Her prolonged mourning created a vacuum in public life. The once visible queen had become a recluse, and many citizens began to wonder whether the monarchy had outlived its usefulness in a modernizing society. During this period of seclusion, Victoria developed a close relationship with John Brown, a Scottish servant and former gillie at Balmoral. Brown was fiercely loyal and unafraid to speak plainly with the Queen, something she may have found comforting after the loss of Albert's intimate companionship. Their relationship became the subject of much speculation and gossip. Some suggested there was a romantic or even secret marital connection, though there is no definitive evidence to support this. Regardless of the exact nature of their bond, the public reaction was mixed. Some viewed the relationship as improper and unbecoming of a sovereign, while others saw it as a poignant expression of human need and loneliness. This chapter of Victoria's life revealed a complex and deeply human dimension to her persona. Far from the remote, idealized figure of national unity, she appeared as a widow overwhelmed by sorrow, grasping for meaning and solace in the aftermath of immense personal loss. It was a period of vulnerability that could have damaged her reign permanently, but it ultimately laid the groundwork for a later resurgence. The mourning queen, once criticized for her absence, would in time return to public life, transformed, aged, and more revered than ever, symbolizing endurance in the face of both personal and imperial trials. While Victoria grieved, the British Empire surged forward. Under Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli's influence, she was declared Empress of India in 1876, a title that signaled Britain's peak imperial power. She became a global symbol of authority, her image found on coins, portraits, and stamps from Canada to India. Yet this era of expansion came with brutal costs: colonial exploitation, economic extraction, and native resistance across the empire. Even as Victoria's empire brought pride to many in Britain, it left a legacy of suffering and inequality in its colonies, one that continues to provoke debate today. In the later decades of her reign, Queen Victoria slowly re-entered public life. Celebrations like her Golden and Diamond Jubilees brought national pride and helped restore the monarchy's popularity. She became a stabilizing figure amid vast social and technological change. The Victorian era saw the rise of railways, telegraphs, new political ideologies, and the stirrings of women's rights movements. While Victoria personally opposed many of these liberal trends, her reign provided the backdrop against which they took root. Her image, once controversial, became almost sacred, a grandmotherly presence beloved by millions. Queen Victoria died in 1901, closing out a reign that lasted 63 years, longer than any monarch before her. By the time she passed, the world was unrecognizably different from the one she inherited as a young queen. She had overseen an era of industrialization, democratic evolution, and unparalleled imperial reach. Her reign helped shape the very identity of modern Britain and redefined what it meant to be a monarch in an age of constitutional governance. Today, Victoria's legacy endures in street names, statues, and period dramas, but also in the complex legacy of the empire she fronted. So, who is Queen Victoria really? A symbol of progress or of oppression? A ruler clinging to tradition or a woman transformed by her times? Her personal story, full of contradictions, triumphs, and tragedies, mirrored the tensions of the 19th century itself. She was loved, criticized, and mythologized, but above all, she was deeply human. As she once wrote in her journal, "I am every inch a queen, but also every inch a woman." What do you think Queen Victoria's true legacy is? Comment below.